time I put into this shit. Like, if I'm going to put in that much work on it, I feel like I should get paid, you know what I mean?
Get a little bit closer to the mic.
Yeah, you know,
There you
can
go.
you hear me? I mean, at the end of the day, you put in so much work. At some point, you feel like it is work. It's like a job, bro. Like, it's a job. And at the end of the day, it's expensive out here. You got to pay the bills. So,
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. It's definitely tough. So, yeah, well, we can talk about that a little later.
No, I mean, that's a perfect way to go into it, really, because that's kind of the conversation that I want to have with you. It's like, you've been building this for a while, you know, and you've been building this, in my opinion, with a great foundation, which is just like you built a community. And I think that's kind of what I was talking to one of my boys about right now. It's like, man, you know, I guess I'm gonna forever like shout this guy out, Billy Russell, man. He posted something that said they're working on a following, I'm working on building a community. And I believe in community, and I believe in like servant leadership, and I believe in all those things. So it's like, man, I don't want to build a following. I want to build a community simply because it's like it's more intangible. There's more stronger foundation. You know, it feels like you're actually doing something, and that's what I'm saying when when it comes to your platform and what you've been able to do. It's like, man, you know, you're bringing in this whole Niner fans from the Bay Area, from Seattle, from New York, all over the states, even outside of the states now.
You got Germany people following me. Like, I had a guy from Australia I talked to. Like, it's crazy because it's like the Niner community. It really is.
Right.
And that's why I always say, you know, I respect all the, you know, the supporters. It's not, I don't really like to say followers because, yeah, you got a high follow count, but it's people that support me because these people talk to me. They see me at the games. They want to say what's up, you know, and then you meet them at certain events, and it's cool, man. And then they support me on whatever platform I got, you know, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. You know, they're like, oh, yo, if you make this, I'll support you. You know, go make a Twitch account or something, and we'll support you. You know, go make merch. So it is a tight knit community, man, and it's the way you put it in. If you just go out there and you see people as a number, then you get what you get. But if you see them as like a family, then they're gonna be supportive of you, and that's what it is. You know, I try to respond to messages, man. Messages is crazy. Yeah. You know, I try to respond to as many people. I go live. I talk to people, answer their questions, and that's what you got to do. You want to engage with them.
Facts.
You know,
and that's the thing about football and NFL and your favorite team. It's like it's becoming a culture. It's a whole, you know. It's like it's even hard to put into words. Like, you just gotta really feel it, you know. But my whole thing about bringing you on, Raj, and you know, it might be a little selfish, but I just wanted you to come on here just because I know you have a lot of valuable things that you've been through in your journey thus far. Yeah. And I know for a fact, Raj, like you haven't even touched your peak at all. But how did what gave you the idea to say, you know what, there's a sports thing I really like, you know, let me go start up a page or let me go start up a brand behind that and see where it could get me?
I mean, I was always into sports media growing up as a kid, you know, 'cause I was born, so I had a heart condition. I was born with a heart problem, right? So growing up, you know, I was super into sports. My dad was into sports and stuff, but I couldn't really play. Well, I tried, but, you know, you got a heart condition, you get short of breath. It's like an asthma attack on crack, basically, you know. So I was born without a pulmonary artery. So, you know, people when I was younger said, oh, he can't do this, he can't do this. I tried to do sports, and then, you know, it just didn't go as good as planned, right? So it kind of discouraged you. But I used to watch a lot of sports. I used to go to a lot of sporting events. My dad, you know, we used to go to the Niner games. And, you know, it was just one of those things. Sports was, like I said, is an escape. I used to love playing, you know, flag football with all my boys and stuff. And, I mean, we played as much as I could, but I was always limited. I knew I wasn't going to go in high school and play big ball and stuff like that. When I got to be, like, 10 years old, they were going to do an open heart surgery, but my mom's like, no, heck no. There's too many, the risks outweighed the positives, so she's like, no, we'll skip it. And we got a new cardiologist. She got a second opinion, and he's like, you know what, you're 10. At this point in your life, you're going to make compensations. Your body's going to get stronger, this and that. Just take care of yourself, be safe. And, you know, so it was one of those things where I got better. I'm 38 now, so I live a good life. Right. But I got to high school, actually. I did play some baseball. I ran some track. So I still tried to do as much as I could in sports, but I knew I couldn't play football, which, you know, I loved. Because, again, my dad, you know, he was a big Niner fan growing up. Niners were big time in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I got older. Still love sports, still watch the Niners, you know, especially after they won that Super Bowl in 94. Just every year, man, you're chasing that high. And then you get to school and stuff, and you just keep, again, sports media was just something I really liked. But at the same time, I didn't know if that was going to be something I could get into and make a career out of it, because there was other stuff, medicine and stuff like that. I was like, oh, I always wanted to be, in the medical field. So it's kind of like, which one do I choose, So obviously I chose the medical field because I feel like it's a more stable career. It was something that I chased, I wanted to be a doctor and stuff like that. So I went that route. My dad passed away, unfortunately, when I was younger, when I was 16. So that kind of was another route. I was like, all right, I got to get a good job, help my mom out, stuff like that. I stayed back, helped my mom out, went to school. But I was still always into sports media. I used to write for the sports newspaper at UNLV back when I was an undergrad. So it was just always something I liked. I used to write for different, sports pages and stuff, but I just didn't really see it as a career at that point because I was going into the medical field. I got my doctorate in PT. And then one year, social media started taking off, right? Facebook and all that stuff, MySpace back in the day. There was like this Facebook group I was in, OURSFNINERS, and I was like the moderator. Me and a couple other dudes, we used to run it. Every Sunday, we used to like talk about the game. Like the game would be going on, we'd be chatting, and it was a big popping page on Facebook, right? So then Instagram had just kind of came out, it was in its infancy. And they were like, "Oh, you're so good at this social media stuff." They're like, "Why don't you make us a page for Instagram?" I was like, "Oh, okay." And I mean, back then, when Instagram first started, it was like you take pictures with filters, right? And I was like, that's it. And you thought you were a photographer, right? Like you thought you were a legit like professional photographer. You'd be taking pictures.
You're ready
like,
for the weddings after that.
3,000 hashtags on your post, and your page blows up, and you're like, okay, and you're seeing like cloud porn pics and all this stuff. That's what it was. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll make because I was pretty good at like editing at the time too, like photo editing and Photoshop back then. It was kind of popular. And so I made it, and I had a pretty decent following. There wasn't a lot of like sports pages on Instagram. There was a few. I remember like House of Highlights, Bleacher Report, and they were like very small at the time. I used to talk to the people that used to run House of Highlights and stuff before Omar took over it. And then there's like a bunch of editing, like graphic designer pages. I'm sure those people blew up, and now they're like big time now. But I used to talk to all the people in the community because they're like, hey, can you post this edit? And that's what it was. It was share people's stuff. That's what it was. I'd write my thoughts on the game. I'd show highlights. And then, it was pretty decent following. And then they allowed you to go live. So I used to go live, talk about stuff, talk to the people. And I was like, okay, this is kind of what I've always wanted to do, talk about sports, post about it, post about the Niners. And I always felt like dedicating that. So I made the 49ers page really because, again, my dad, he passed away. So I felt like it was a good way to kind of connect to my dad after he passed away because he loved the Niners. He was so passionate about them. And then I could always, have those memories and cultivate that community like you said. So it's kind of how it started, man. I just made it, Facebook, and then I made the gram page. And then it started taking off. And I started studying other pages like Bleacher Report and stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's how they get their engagement. And, kind of felt like I wanted to make something like the Bleacher Report of sports pages. And that's kind of how it is. Like anytime there's breaking news, you got to post it. You talk about it. You go live. You post the highlights. I used to stream the games on Sundays. That was a fun time. People used to love that. Yeah. Stream the games, man. So just try to connect with as many fans as I can and bring my, like, perspective and view of the Niners to everybody in the community. So that's kind of how it is. That's kind of how it went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I love it, man. I really do because it's like I said, you brought your passion, something you've been through with, your dad, and you were able to, like, kind of put it all together and impact a whole community. Like, I don't think people understand how big that is. Like, I think when you do things, it's bigger than yourself because, like you said, it's a fucking grind, man. It's a grind, and it's a grind that you do because you love, but at the same time, like, you're not always going to love what you love. I don't know you people get that, but you're not always going to love what you love. So it's kind of hard sometimes, but I think, that same passion is what's going to pull you out, I think it really is. So take me back to when, like, you went to medical school. Like, did you feel like there was still, like, oh, I want to do this broadcasting, but what was holding you back from actually diving into it?
Yeah, no, 100%. I always wanted to get into it. Like I said, there's always like something in the back of my mind. Like sometimes I look back, I'm like, what if I just went into like journalism or something? But again, I always kind of like looked at like medicine, and I at first I wanted to be like MD, doctor, all that stuff. And then, you make some life decisions. I had a kid at a young age, and you kind of have to change things around. Plan B. I was always looking into the rehab world and physical therapy, so it was a little bit easier to get into. And not only that, it was like a shorter time to get into that, with all the school. I mean, I still had to go through grad school and everything to get my doctorate and everything. But, my daughter was just born, and at the time I was like, okay, if I go to med school, it's like 8 more years. That's a lot of time away from being with the kid. And I want to be as good as a father as I can be. And that's just me. Like, I just want to be there, even though like now I'm not with her mom, we're divorced, but we're like co-parents and we rotate every week. So I've always tried to be like a present father and stuff. And that kind of,
that's important. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to have that, as much as it, my dad passed away when I was 16, but he was there for, my life. And he kind of went through a lot of hardships too. There was times where he wasn't there, so it wasn't because he didn't want to be. There's just other stuff that went on,
Right.
health reasons and stuff. So it was tough when you don't have that. And I wanted to make sure that I'm there for my daughter. And also because, I had a heart condition. Who knows what's going to happen, man? Life is short. You never know. So I tried to be there. So I said, okay, rehab's a good route. It's a good paying profession, and if you have a kid, you got to make money. Those diapers ain't cheap, man.
Right.
Formula ain't cheap. So, that was it. I was in school when she was like 10 months. So it was like 3 years of grad school. So after that, though, I was working. I could stay home and, be there with, my daughter and everything as much as I could. And even now, man, it's a good career where I can balance that and everything and still be, able to take care of her. She's 14 now, but, she's a lot more independent, but I could be there for her. But at the same time, man, I always thought, I was like, man, sports media, who knows? But nowadays with social media, because back then, 10, 12 years ago, social media wasn't as it is now, It was just starting to kind of creep up, and I still thought about it, but again, I started doing like the Facebook stuff and all that stuff and getting into it. But now as it kind of took off, I just started diving in because there's so many opportunities with people that do YouTube and TikTok, and there's so many ways you can kind of get yourself out there and be in sports media, man. It's crazy how it evolved. And I always realized, I say, maybe one day down the line. And it's like you work as a career, right? Like sometimes you change a career. Like you're not always going to be doing the same job for the rest of your life. So I thought about it that way too. I say, okay, maybe for some part of my life I can do this and be a physical therapist, but maybe I'll have a career change. And, I'm trying to at this point, trying to go deep dive into go full bore on social media with sports media really. So, but yeah, I did think about it a lot when I was in grad school and stuff, but it was at the time, when you have a kid, you got to make money.
Yeah.
You got to do what's best for you, and sports media wasn't going to pay the bills at that time.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. I mean, I completely understand you got to do what you got to do, especially because you got, like you said, you got responsibilities and you got bills, but I think the challenge is trying to get it from, where we're at, where it's like, man, this is the passion, this is what we're chasing, but we also need, financially to be sustainable. And I think just, I think that's blanket rule. It's like, man, if you're living in this country, you're going to need money to live a pretty well-off life, you know? But I think, it's, like I said, I think the challenge is being able to do it in the middle, where it's like, man, I'm trying to do it through my passion. But, man, now that you kind of have the page, like, what are the some personal benefits that you see for yourself that's like, man, like, yeah, I'm able to start this community, but man, like, I enjoy talking to the players, for example. I enjoy, being the first to know about things. Like, what kind of benefits have you seen kind of come up from the page?
Yeah, obviously, like I said, just meeting people. Like I know, like met you through the page, right?
Yeah,
we got a good friendship now. I met a lot of people that I talk to on a daily basis, like that I consider really good friends through the page, because it's social media. You're connecting with people. You talk to people. I met a lot of cool people through the years. And also, like, personally, like I said, meeting the players, talking to the players, that's cool as just a fan, and, not someone that wants to be a journalist or cover the team or whatever the case is. Just as a fan, it's like, oh, damn, you talking to, Jimmy Ward, or you talking to XYZ, so it's cool in that sense. You get a little bit of respect, and when they post your pictures or they mention you in a post, it's always cool. That's fun. Being in social media and content creating, it's cool when you engage with players, and sometimes they'll want to go on the live and we talk to the players. That's fun too, man. That's super cool. Like I said, I met a lot of people, a lot of other creators, graphic designers, people that sell merchandise, like graphic tees. People hook me up, so I get a lot of free stuff, which is cool. Like I always ask, like, hey, you don't have to give it to me, but they're like insist, because, of course, I'll help them out, shout them out or promote their products, so it's cool. Different vendors try to sponsor me, so that's always cool, seeing different vendors and other companies, reaching out to me and promoting their products. That's something that I was like, man, I never thought that. I didn't even realize that was even a part of all this, because I just wanted to talk about the team, post their highlights and cover the team and talk about the updates and stuff like that. But then there's so much more in terms of, like, there's merchandise. There's people that can give you tickets for the game. Hey, you go to the game, it's on us. Or, go to the game, shout us out, and go enjoy yourself with your daughter. Like, there was preseason game. Shout out Go Bar Whiskey, my man. They hooked me up, man. They gave me tickets for the game because, I've been loyal to them, and they've been such a good supporter of me. And they hooked me up with some free preseason tickets, and it was in the clubhouse, and we got free food and all that stuff. It was cool. Like, it was a good experience. So, I mean, that kind of stuff you get because people respect the work that I put in and, all the hard work I do for the fans, and trying to give them all the updates. And we go live and we talk and we, give them support and be positive for the team, because that's the other thing. Because you can be a guy that covers the team. You could be a content creator. There's a lot of negativity out there in social media. There's a lot. I mean, it's social media at the end of the day. There's toxicity. There's people that hate you no matter who you are. The players deal with it. I've seen it myself. I'm like, dang, man, there's so racial people, racist people, whatever the case is. And you deal with that. So I try to be as positive as I can, and I think people respect that. So, I get people that send me things, like I said, like free shirts or hats, and it's just like I don't even have to do anything. It's just because I put in so much work, and I always appreciate all those people that send me, their hard work, their merchandise. And because of that, I've always tried to be a guy that helps other people in that community, because there's a lot of people that have a big following, a lot of clout, whatever, and they won't give you the time of the day. They're like, oh, whatever, and they just move on. But I've always tried to help other content creators. There's people I go on my show with, and I try to go on their show. I'll have them come on as my show as a guest, because you want to spread the word for everybody. Everybody wants to eat, so I try to let everybody, get their 2 cents, So that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, and the Niners, man, if there's any time to be a Niners, like, I don't think there's a better time to be a Niners fan, man, because we have a lot to be excited about, man. Really do. We just got McCaffrey, fucking Debo's going crazy, like always, Ayuk. So we got too many weapons, bro. I really don't think, like I was talking to Ramon, Ramon, I was telling him, if we don't get 2 Super Bowls in the next 3 years, like, we're doing something wrong. I just don't see us, like, a huge weakness, So what do you think about the team right now, man? I know these people want to know your opinion, but your personal 100%.
Opinion. This team is like you said, on paper, they look like championship caliber team. I mean, like, they got some of the best players at the positions, at every position. They got some of the highest paid players at every position. I mean, you look at this roster top to bottom. If they stay consistent, you're right, they should win Super Bowls, man. You got Debo. You just got CMC, who his second game as a Niner, bro, and he had 3 touchdowns. Like, that's crazy. George Kittle, everybody loves him. People's tight end. Brandon Ayuk, he's, becoming that wide receiver that we thought he was. You got Nick Bosa, bro. He's, like, probably the best pass rusher in the league, right? Fred Warner, Greenlaw. Like, the talent is there. This team is amazing. They've battled adversity. They get a lot of injuries and stuff. But Trent Williams, we didn't even mention him. Like, you can go top to bottom through this roster, and it's probably one of the best in the league, right? Probably the best offense in the league. And, it's a really good team, a really strong family. Like, they're a tight-knit group. They have a lot of players go down, but they keep fighting, got good depth. So, honestly, man, it is an exciting time to be a Niner fan, and I feel like they have so much potential, but can they put it all together? Can they be consistent? That's what we need to see is the consistency, because with all that talent, they're 4-4, So it's not like they're dominating every game. They've been shooting themselves in the foot, and I feel like the only people that can beat them is themselves, and that's what it is they are their worst enemy, and that's it. But they have the talent to win a Super Bowl. You're right, man. If they don't win 2 Super Bowls in the next couple of years, I'm going to be a little irritated.
It's just we got too much, and, like, that's the thing about the Niners. We're great. We draft really, really, really well, and that's kudos to John Lynch and Kyle. He's always going to throw his 2 cents in there, which is always great in my opinion. I don't know, man. A lot of people, they say Shanahan this, and we kind of start going on a down slow. But what do you think about that, Raj? Because a lot of people are blaming Shanahan, but I don't know.
So yeah, that is something we got to talk about. Like, I like Shanahan. He's definitely been better than Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula. But I mean, if you're not, then you ain't doing a good job. Like, it's not easy. That's the thing, man. Like, those were the guys he had to replace. And were they great? No, but he's definitely changed the culture. They've been to 2 NFC championships. They've been to a Super Bowl, so you can't knock them for that. But I feel a lot of people get irritated because they come so close. They do have all this talent. They get a lot of injuries, and, they want to place the blame on someone. And the head coach, he's the leader, so sometimes that's the guy that gets the blame. You're the leader. You got to take that blame. So he has been inconsistent. I feel like there's been times where he kind of loses that aggressiveness, but he's been close, man. And, again, they've put together some phenomenal teams. Lynch and Shanahan and Adam Peters.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys have drafted well. They've put together some great talent.
Our front office are great with the cap.
Yeah, Parag. Shout out to Parag, my boy Parag, man. They've been making money moves. Like, they brought back Trent Williams. They brought back all these players over the years. Like, they get the talent. They put together the team that we want to see, But when people lose, they got to point fingers to someone. And the coach is always the easy way out. But I also feel that because Jim Harbaugh had such instant success when he came in, people compare them together. So it's like, okay, Harbaugh came in and they won right away. Boom, right away. And his worst season was 8-8, and they got rid of him. There's a lot of political stuff going on, but I feel like people always are going to look at those teams and say, oh, well, they never had a losing season. Kyle always, he's had losing seasons. He's had some tough luck. The first year he took over, that roster was a dumpster.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, no disrespect to anybody on that team, but, man, let's be real with it. They had Lewis Murphy's wide receiver 1, stuff like that. Like, but then again, it goes back to his decision-making. People get mad at some of the – like, he has drafted well overall in the late rounds, but there have been some draft blunders. But not everybody's going to knock every pick out of the park. I think he does, get a lot of – credit though, because his dad was a successful, in the league, so he's gonna ride that a little bit. But I don't think he's been horrible. But he does have to win a Super Bowl, in the next 2 years with this talent, and I feel like that's what I think people are irritated with is they do have all this talent, but why aren't they winning the Super Bowl?
Thanks.
So it's tough, man. And they got close, and they saw him in Atlanta, 28-3, blew the lead, and they pinned that on him too. So I feel a lot of people have this stigma on him that he's never going to win it. He's a choke artist. Why don't we just get rid of him? But maybe he'll prove everybody wrong because Andy Reid, man, this guy for years and years and years, same thing. He got close, no cigar. He blew games, this and that. And now everybody thinks Andy Reid's this genius. But Kyle Shanahan, he's revealed as a genius too. And this year they came out the gates a little flat, and everybody's saying, Mike McDaniel, look at him in Miami, man. He's killing the game. Was he the guy that Shanahan needed? We'll see, man. Again, they're 4-4. If the Niners go on a run and make a big, deep run into the playoffs, then we can't hate on the guy. So we'll see, man.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what I was gonna say. Was like McDaniels was that OC, and he had a creative mind too. But I think Shanahan, he's developed a lot of players, and one thing I was gonna say, it's like, man, you look at the NFC right now. Who was in it last year? Tampa. L.A. Rams, who we beat twice already. Packers, who just lost the Lions.
Teams are bad right now.
And that's the thing. We don't even have to look at it in that way. I just think we're just fucking juggernaut team right now who needs to figure it out ASAP.
Yeah.
And I understand. And we just got Alshire back. We got
Greenlaw, Juszczyk, Jennings, Mitchell's back. So our team's healthy. I don't want to use injuries as an excuse, but that is a part of maybe why we lost some of these games. But I think, again, inconsistencies. They lost to some teams they should have won. Atlanta.
It was a lot of flags, too, man.
Penalties.
Penalties. Yeah, I don't know, man. A lot of penalties where it's like, I understand the aggressiveness of our system, right? I understand the intensity, but it's like a lot of them are just like, it's just like, man, why even make them? But it's obviously, easier said than done. But I want to go back more on, the whole overall picture, man, where it's like, man, right now, the Niners, bro, I don't see anyone beating us, in the rest of the schedule. Who do we have? We have the Chargers.
Their schedule is pretty easy coming up the second half, relatively. You can't say any game's easy because any given
that's
Sunday,
the thing about the NFL.
The hardest games, I feel, coming up again. Chargers are a real deal team. They're a winning
Let's pull up
team.
their schedule. Hold on.
They got the Chargers. They got Arizona after that.
I don't think Arizona. Okay, first of all, I don't know if Kyler is ever gonna win a Super Bowl. But yeah, I don't want to tap into that. We might cut that out, Raj, because that was both statement of not saying anyone's gonna beat us. But
we'll see. I mean, I think their hardest matchups coming up, though, of course, the Chargers, Seattle, Pete Carroll, man, that's a hell of a coach right there. He's got that team fighting for NFC West spot, top division spot. Pete Carroll, man, everybody counted that team out. He drafted great. Tariq Woolen, Ken Walker, Kobe Bryant.
Oh, yeah.
They got a team, dude. And Geno Smith.
Oh, man.
He got rid of Russell Wilson. Everybody said, oh, they're done. And Geno Smith looks like MVP candidate, man. So Pete Carroll and the Seahawks, that's going to be a tough game. Dolphins, like we talked about, Mike McDaniel coming to the 49ers, the revenge game. And that's the thing, like, Kyle Shanahan, going back to him, I feel like he just has a lot of stress on his plate, man. And that's the thing, because he is the head coach and the OC. Like, there was only 1 year where he had the OC, and that was McDaniel.
Mm-hmm.
And now he doesn't. And again, he's going back to that point where he's doing everything. He's shot calling. He's being the head coach, and that's a lot of stress in general, being a head coach. So I feel like he's just overworking himself, and I think that's one reason why maybe he does struggle, and sometimes he doesn't see everything and make some weird decisions here and there. It's a lot of stress to be a head coach, offensive coordinator, because McDaniel would come in. He did a lot of like the game preps. He did like the film review with them. He used to do game plans, and he did all the dirty work that Kyle didn't, have to do. Like the small little stuff through the week that you got to stay up till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock at night to do. That was McDaniel doing that, man. And Kyle was a little bit more refreshed. Now he's got to do all that work. And I was listening to one of his interviews, I think it was last week, with Greg Papa, and he says, I really don't got time to do anything during the week. I'm just out there grinding, looking film, studying game plans and stuff. Because he asked him, he goes, so what'd you do during your bye week? He goes, this is the first year I got to go trick-or-treating with my kids, man. He goes, that was nice. I got some time, some downtime. He goes, it usually doesn't happen.
Sheesh. No, yeah, I do. And that's the thing about Shannon. He is a workaholic, man. Yeah. And you're right, man. That same stress, that same, like, urge to keep going might take away from that creativity. It might take away from those decisions. But, nah, man, I think overall, like, I keep saying that, man, we don't get to Super Bowls in the next 3 years, it's over. Like, it's not over, but it's like we need to move. We need to do something because Shanahan was literally the Niners said, take anyone you want. Take anyone you want in this draft. We could have maybe even traded those drafts for someone, but he said, no, I wanted a guy who's fresh. I want a guy who's coming out of college. I want a prodigy guy. And during the offseason, I heard okay, what if he uses him like RG3? And then they brought up behind that, they said, well, what happened to RG3? And the same thing happened to Trey. So what's your opinion right now on that whole Trey Lance situation?
I mean, I feel, and no disrespect to anybody, because I know people are going to say, oh, well, Jimmy this, Jimmy that. But listen, man, if you were going to draft a quarterback, which I think they were trying to make up for the fact that they didn't the first year they took over, okay, so 2017. Which
is the year that Mahomes
and Watson. They didn't really scout him. They didn't want him because they were so.
Wait, wasn't Mayfield? My bad. No. Mayfield was after.
No. It was Mahomes and Watson. Yeah. Those were the two main guys, and they could have taken those guys, but they were banking on getting Kirk Cousins. Like they wanted Kirk Cousins, but I guess it didn't come to fruition. So they went out, got Brian Hoyer. Okay, we're gonna run it. We'll go put our chips in, and our first draft pick. No disrespect to you, my man. Is gonna be Solomon Thomas. Right? That was their first draft pick they made. Big time player. That's who they're gonna build this team around. And he was a good player in college. He had good tape coming out of Stanford. He was a dominant player. Christian McCaffrey they could have got, right? It was
Pac-12 too, so they're.
And that's a Stanford guy. Yeah. John Lynch loves the Stanford guys.
Yeah.
But they went with defense because they wanted to be a powerful defensive team. And then you look at the team now, it makes sense. They're a big defensive. That's the heart of their team.
Right.
But the problem is they took Solomon and they tried to play him out of position, defensive end, right? They wanted to be that Leo pass rusher like Bosa was. Solomon's 3 technique, defensive lineman, interior guy.
Yeah.
That kind of messed him up. Then he went through a lot of personal stuff. So that didn't work out. They could have went and got a quarterback that year in the draft, bottom line. So then now flash forward, boom, a couple years later. Or actually that year, they went and traded for Jimmy that year because they couldn't get Kirk. They made the big move. Jimmy comes in, changes the culture, great quarterback. Everybody thought they found their guy. Boom. Look at Shanahan, look at Kyle. Look at Kyle, look at Lynch. Boom, money move. They got their guy. Then unfortunately he tore his ACL. He wasn't always the same quarterback, but they did get to Super Bowl the year after they got Nick Bosa and everything. So things were looking up, but then Jimmy had a lot of injuries, right? So they had to make the move for insurance policy because they didn't know Jimmy was going to stay healthy. So you're right. They went and said, let's go start. Let's get a guy we can develop. Shanahan finally gets a guy that he can, develop, mold, be the guy, be the quarterback. And there was that draft class, if you look at it, everybody said that was one of the most talented quarterback draft classes, right? A lot of controversy during that draft class, and they went with Trey, third pick. They traded 3 picks. Miami's doing good with all 3 of those picks. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Bradley Chubb. They've done pretty good. So during the offseason last year when he was a rookie, everybody said, okay, we should start him. But they kept Jimmy. It was kind of weird. I felt like it was a little awkward. And I think they should have, at that point, if you're going to go all in on the guy, I think they should have let him develop.
Yeah.
If he would have been bad, I mean, you had a good enough team. I think they could have won, maybe a decent amount of games, right? You get the kid, develop him. Because if he's a young quarterback and you take him, he's only going to get better with the reps. And plus, he was kind of raw. Coming out of North Dakota, he didn't have a lot of game experience.
And
so
the whole argument was it's a small school.
Yeah, so it was tough, man. So it was like, okay. But then I see the other argument where, Jimmy's still there. He knows the system. He can groom him, and a lot of quarterbacks have done that through the years. So I get that.
And Jimmy didn't come out of huge school either, right?
He was Illinois. Was it Southern Illinois?
Yeah,
So he came out of a small school. And, he did well for himself throughout the years. He studied behind Brady. He sat on the bench, so he knows what it takes. And I get that argument, and which is fine. So he sat, Trey developed, and then, okay, boom. You get rid of that year. They made it to the NFC Championship. Crazy. Started 3-5, rode momentum. So, again, going back to what I said earlier, this is a team that can battle adversity. But then they get to this offseason, and it was, okay, now this is the year they're going to have Trey. They said farewell to Jimmy. They had the whole farewell speech, and that was crazy. They were going to trade him.
They didn't even let him play during training camp, right?
Because they were going to trade him. And
not even get the playbook.
He didn't get the playbook. I was there at training camp, and I remember I would see him every day. He's in the back. He's throwing. I'm grinding, getting some content. Like, let's see Jimmy getting throwing the ball and stuff. But he wasn't even out
waiting
there.
for who's going to where he's going.
And he was thinking he was going to get traded. But then, before that all happened, he had the surgery and stuff. And I think that definitely threw a wrench in it. So it was a weird offseason. But we still all thought Trey was coming in, and, that was his guy. Then they extended Jimmy. That was like a big surprise. Like, holy smokes,
They extended him before the season?
Yeah, remember they extended him right before the rosters were all set. It was like that week. It was like breaking news, Jimmy Garoppolo. Not extended, but restructured. Sorry, restructured the contract. So it was like, okay, if they're restructuring him, they're not going to get rid of the guy. Yeah, there's no way. And that's what they said. It was the intentions were to keep him as backup, plan B, just in case. And you kind of start thinking like, what the heck? And of course the big heads in the media are like, oh, they don't trust Trey. Jimmy's there because they don't trust him. And the media start talking. And then unfortunately, Trey went out there. He got injured second game of the year. And I guess their backup plan, it worked out in a sense. I mean, it sucks that Trey had to go down. But, yeah, overall, man, it was just a weird situation. I think mentally, if I'm Trey Lance, I mean, I don't know how I'd feel with all that through these 2 years. And Jimmy, too, he handled it well. But mentally, that's a grind for him, man. That's weird. Again, thinking you're going to go. Now you're the quarterback. And you had people ditching you, like fans ditched them. And now they're riding them again. It's weird. And same with Trey. People, it kind of turned the fan base against each other. That's what I noticed through the social media context of it. But honestly, if I was the coach, I would have, if I'm committed to that quarterback, Trey Lance, I would have committed to him, made him the quarterback. Yeah, you might have struggled that first year, but he's only going to get better if you play him. And then the whole injury, issue is a lot of people were bringing up, well, did Trey Lance get used right? Did Kyle Shanahan abuse him as a runner? And there's that whole argument. I mean, that's murky waters, Some people say, oh, everybody runs the quarterback power, right? Look at Lamar, look at Allen, right? But I feel like they should have utilized him more as a throwing quarterback too. But he is a quarterback that can throw, and he's a run second. But I feel like they did kind of utilize him more as that run first type quarterback, which I don't think he necessarily is. But it's tough because you got fans out there, and they're gonna see this season and see, oh look, he wasn't ready, and it's just frustrating, man, as a fan and seeing all the negativity towards it. I think they should have committed to him and let him be the quarterback and got rid of Jimmy before. No disrespect to him, because I'm just saying, if you draft a quarterback and you go all in, chips all in, got to commit to him. I mean, look at what New England did, right? They got rid of Cam Newton. They committed to Mac Jones. And teams, it's a different day and age nowadays, because I know people are going to bring up the argument with Aaron Rodgers. He sat behind Brett Favre, and it's not a bad thing to sit behind a guy, but I just feel like you go all in that much, man, commit to the guy, because that, I don't know, like I said, mentally for Trey, that's hard, man. That's how I feel. I don't know.
Yeah, but one thing about our locker room and one thing about Shanahan specifically that I noticed, even when he was in Atlanta, he's just really good at bringing on guys together, honestly, because I was watching his interview today, and he was talking about how, it's never a good feeling when a player goes down, especially someone like JV of his caliber and just like his mindset. So he asked the team, he was like, man, like, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to finish practice or not? And they say they wanted to keep going. And I think that, I think that's just a testimony of like we've been able to build, like the guys are like, yeah, we feel for them. Like we gonna wear the T-shirt and do all this and that, and make sure he's good. But we got a job to do.
yeah, and that's tough. They said that it was like a somber moment. Everybody was awkward. They were quiet.
Right.
But then they said, hey, let's finish. So
and I respect that a ton because like I said, like if anything, that's gonna help him out. It's like he's seeing his team, a guy is back, and they going on Sunday. They're gonna wear his shirts, and I don't know. I think that was a great way to respond.
I do too. I think they're gonna go and ball for him because they could have been dejected and sad and depressed, and that's what I talked about earlier today on my show. I said, they can either go two ways. They can either be upset and depressed and let this like sting them, and they can make this linger into the game on Sunday and lose because they're depressed. Or they can say, you know what, one of our boys went down. Let's go out there and let's go win for him. Let's go fight for our guy, And I think that's the route they're going to take. And again, it goes back to what we said is this is a team that has been through so much adversity.
Yeah.
They know how to rise above. Like, it sucks, but, hey, you still got work to do, man. Like, it's a tough setback. It does suck, but, you got to go out there and still play on Sunday night against the Chargers, They've had injuries. Nick Bosa, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, Debo, Kittle, so many injuries throughout the years, but they got to keep pushing, man. Next man up. It is unfortunate for JV. You feel bad for the guy because his whole career he's been dealing with these injuries. I feel like if he never had injuries through his career, he might be one of the top cornerbacks of all time. Like that's how good he was. The 2 years he was healthy, he's like Pro Bowl caliber guy. I mean, yeah, 1 year was a Pro Bowl, and then the year he was with the Niners, he got snubbed from the Pro Bowl. Crazy.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
He just has that Bay Area grit because I know he's from Fairfield, around there. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a whole culture, man. And I think when you're building something, like, it's important to have a good culture around whatever you're building because I think that's the foundation. And when your foundation is that of like commodity, it can get pretty scary on what you can accomplish.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And that's a testament to JV. It's just he's a dog, man, and his mentality, his tenacity of always trying to fight. Like most people, probably retired after the second injury he's had. Like he's had 2 torn labrums, 2 torn ACLs, a torn patella, 2 torn Achilles, and then a partial ACL tear. All those injuries on both legs. He's torn his ACL and his Achilles on both legs.
Damn.
Most people after the first ACL are probably done, bro. They're gone for the. But he fought back every single year, so it's like mental toughness is crazy, man. And I feel like that's why the team's like, you know what, man, JV wouldn't want us to be down. He would want us to fight because what does JV do? He always goes out and fights, man. So I think they took his spirit and then they're gonna go out for him. And that's the thing, man. He's a guy that even though he hasn't played, man, on this team other than 1 year, they got his back because he's been such a mentor, a good leader to this team. And that's why they want to go out there and fight for him. He's only played 1 year with this team and 15 games, I think, and they still want to go out there and fight for him. So that shows you how much of a leader he is. But I think he should be a coach maybe down the line. I would like to see it. I think he's got that mentality, man.
Facts. Yeah, he can can definitely make others better. And yeah, a lot of rookies that talked about him. But man, I definitely wanted to, cause man, we got a rented time, man. We ended up coming to this haunted house of a studio. We walked in. We didn't know if we were gonna walk out, or we still don't know if we're gonna be able to walk out. But yeah, man. I definitely want to have some fun with this. I want to ask you. I definitely got some trivia questions for you, Raj. Because I don't know. You got the shirt, you got the hat, you talking all this game, but I don't know how true a real Niner fan you are. Nah. So we gonna test those skills a little bit, bro. We gonna. All right, because one thing I love about the Niners is there's so much history. You know, there's so much history within our organization, and like. I really love how we be saying "our," bro, because you part of the fan base. Like it is your team, it's your city, it's your team, it's your players, man. But speaking of the Niners, what year? Okay, Raj, what year were the Niners inducted into the NFL?
1946, right? 1946.
1950, brother.
That was close.
No. Okay. No. What year were they founded? Yeah, what year were they founded? 1946. And then when were they? Yeah, 19. They were into the NFL.
Yeah, but they were 1946. That's why they got that 75-year patch last year.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought it was like they were 49ers. You know, 1949. That's what the 49ers.
Yeah. No, the 49ers because of the gold mining, right? The gold mining rush. Yeah. So 49ers.
Facts. All right, I'm gonna ask you a real tough one.
Uh-oh.
So, how many times did 49er quarterback Joe Montana win Super Bowl MVP?
Oh, he won the Super Bowl MVP 3 times because Jerry Rice won it 1 time.
Damn, this guy's good. Yeah, he did. He definitely did. Do you know? All right, bonus points if you tell me what years or what Super Bowls.
Oh man, off top, the one. Fuck man, he.
All right, we that was a tough one. I don't even know if I have the answer for that.
I can't remember exactly which ones he won all of them.
All right, what was the first year the 49ers played in the NFL playoff game?
First playoff game for the 49ers?
First playoff game ever.
Oh, man. I'm going to go with like 1980, maybe.
1957.
Okay, back in the day.
Yeah, that was
old days.
I guess you were always a good franchise.
Yeah.
All right, how many interceptions did Deion Sanders return for touchdowns while playing for the 49ers?
How many did he return?
How many pick sixes did Deion Sanders have?
Ooh. Let's go with 3.
You're right, bro. Somebody get this man $1 million, bro. That's the grand prize.
That's it. 3, baby. Deion was my guy, man.
Yeah. Let's see. All right, let's see if you know this one. Who was the referee in two?
The referee, yo. I don't stay up on the refs, man. I just know they hate us, bro. The refs hate us.
Nah, I'm joking. Last one. This for all the marbles right here. Who was the only one that has caught over 185 touchdowns in 49 hits?
What was the question?
I said I'm saying that so bad. I'm still thinking about the referee. So who was the only one that has caught over 185 touchdowns in 49er history?
It's my boy Jerry Rice, man.
Facts,
Shady,
bro.
baby.
Ding, 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 ding,
Go.
ding, ding.
Love it.
You can't hear it, but you just know that shit sounded wrong.
I like it. I heard a little.
You heard it? Okay.
I heard a little. Okay. Yeah, baby. I like the sound effects. The sound effects, baby. Quit playing with the sound effects.
Welcome down to the Neighbor Heroes Game Show. Here we have Raj Milwani. Nah, man, I appreciate it, man. It's always a pleasure. We definitely got to figure out how I can be of service to you, Raj, and help you, monetize that. But like I said, I have had that idea before, so I'm ready to be of service however I can, bro. Because at this point, because you just told me, man, I give myself a month, and I want to see you on the other side, bro. So I'm gonna share with you what I got, but I appreciate you for coming down, bro. It's always a pleasure. I love talking Niner football, especially with this Niner guru, and I know you have a huge future ahead of you, bro. I know you're just starting off, so I'm excited for what's to come, bro.
I appreciate you, man. It's always fun coming on here and talking and stuff. Like last time we was talking to Big Spence, man.
Yeah, shout out
you know what, man?
Spence.
Maybe we just got to reach out to these Niner players and do it because this is the thing, man. You got the nice equipment, the fancy stuff. Maybe we won't do it in the murder hotel, but we can get these players and do a legit show with them, man. Yeah, let's get something rolling. But
hold on, I think I disconnected you. Hold on. There you go.
Killing me, man. No, but there's creative ways you gotta like look into getting that kind of stuff, like merchandise or something.
Yeah.
Like you have to find a way to do it. That's why I said if you have a good graphic artist, you can do it. There's certain ways, there's certain things you can't use, likenesses and stuff of the players. So. But yeah, you definitely, man. And if things drop like at that moment, and you got an idea, you got to capitalize. But what we were talking about after we actually ended the pod. We had to come back on because we was
juicy,
talking
man.
about some juicier stuff before or after the pod than we were when we were on the pod. So we was talking about like players, you know, because we've talked to certain players here and there, Spencer Burford and a couple other players. We just talk about, you know, when a player kind of loses their luster in the league, or if they're undrafted and they get hurt, you know, for example, Leon O'Neal, they got to keep their platform growing. And, you know, there's a way that they can keep using their platform to benefit them because, you know, hey, they want to go into football, but sometimes it's tough, man. That being a football player and you're undrafted, and if you get hurt, it's tough for you. Like, you honestly don't get that many opportunities. That's why they try to go out and do their best. You know, training camp, that's all they have sometimes. Mini camp, if you get cut, man, you got to keep showing your film and keep showing your highlights to these teams to kind of maybe bring you in for a tryout. But those tryouts, they look at you for like 2 seconds. It's not even the coach. It's like a scout guy looks at you, and they either like you or they don't, and you have to make a lasting impression. And for a guy like Leon O'Neal, who got injured in the training camp, he didn't even get to put tape on film because he didn't even get to go to the preseason, you know? That's why I feel like he was so frustrated, was like, I didn't even get an opportunity to go out there and put my game out so other teams can see me, because maybe another team would say, oh, I like what he shows on this tape. We'll give him an opportunity. That's what he was saying on his live. But, you know, I've talked to other players that were in the league that were undrafted or maybe got cut after, you know, a year or two that kind of flamed out. And they said the same thing. They said there's so many, you know, there's so little opportunities that they get afterwards. That's why you have to make the most of that time. Just because you get drafted, just because you get selected to a team, doesn't mean you're going to be a star. Like, they're all talented players. I mean, they're world-class athletes, but you're going up against hundreds of other world-class athletes that want it maybe just as bad as you or maybe more. So it's tough, man. You got to find a way to keep yourself relevant. If you want to keep playing football, you just got to keep going to tryouts. You got to keep putting your best foot forward. But I can see how stressful it is for them. So, yeah, man, we definitely got to help these athletes maybe in a way and reach out to them.
No, I completely agree. And, you know, I think that's my whole argument. It's like, just because they didn't make it to that next level doesn't mean, you know, they don't have a bunch of other potential that they can, you know, pour into the world. And like you said, man, I think that's where we got to come in and be like, yo, you have this platform, like, let's use it in a sense of like, man, you know, you have a bunch of people who follow you because of what you do. Now show them who you are and show them like why you're there. Yeah. You know, and I think that's the most important part. It's like, I think people would try to brush that shit over. And that's why I'm obsessed with like autobiographies. I'm obsessed with like interviews. I'm obsessed with biographies because it's like, man, you literally get to, it's, you know, I don't know if you know who Jordan Peterson is, but he said a book is kind of like a portal, right? You go into another dimension, like, and it's so crazy because that's why I get so excited when I get a new book. It's like, man, I'm tapping into somebody's whole mindset. It's just going to open up a bunch of doors for my life. But yeah, I agree. Like, being able to, you know, build a platform and like not let it die down is very important.
Yeah, especially for these athletes, because again, they built it so much, they put in all that work, and then if it kind of fizzles, it's like, it's tough mentally. Like, you know, sometimes you look back and you're like, whatever happened to so and so, and then, you know, they may go into something that they never even thought of because they got to stay relevant. They got to work. They got to pay the bills. So, you know, some players, they're lucky enough to, after, you know, football, they could go and get an analyst career. They can go into TV, but some people aren't that lucky, you know. So they go look at other avenues. Are they good at music? Are they good at design? Or how can they funnel their, you know, their celebrity status or whatever at that point that they have when they come into league and people know them for a little bit? How can they funnel that to something successful? Because at the end of the day, they still got to make money. They want to be successful at something. I talked to Chancellor James. He used to be on the Niners cornerback, you know, little-known player. He has football camps and stuff like that. But he said it was so hard to promote it. Like, he was on TikTok. He goes, nobody knows me. I'm not a big-time player in the league. But, you know, he goes, hardcore fans on the team will know me. He goes, like, you'll know me. He goes, you're a hardcore fan. But he goes, most people, they won't know me. So it's, like, hard to get my name out there. He goes, you know, pages like yours, if you know, shout me out or something, maybe they'll see some traction and people are like, oh, okay, that's a cool football camp. But, you know, like I do have a lot of power or influence on some of these players. I can help them out, you know, and that's what I want to do with some of these players, you know, because it's unfortunate because not everybody's Nick Bosa, not everybody's a superstar player. And I do like, you know, these players that on the undrafted squad, on the practice squad, you kind of look at them and you're like, yeah, they got talent, but they may not ever make it to the team or the league. So, you got to look into them and say, hey, what can we do to help maybe them prosper? And they may not make it in the NFL, but they have other avenues, and maybe we can go and help them out,
Facts. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yes, we definitely need to get that on tape.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is good stuff, and I think that's the part that no one really talks about. That's what I'm saying. It's like you said, not everyone's Nick Bosa, not everyone's Deebo Samuel, but it's like how can you still be of service and value if you're not there? Those guys that still want to succeed in life, especially because like there's a lot of people. We're in California, but we were talking about it with Spence. Where it's like, man, in Texas, like you kind of know as soon as you're 10 years old, like man, I'm working to play in the NFL. So it's like, man, all of a sudden you working for something so hard for so many years. What happens when it doesn't even become a possibility anymore because of just the business, So it's like, yeah, you got to stay on your 10. Like, and that's the thing. I've heard a lot of people say, like, man, these guys are in the NFL. They're getting paid millions. They still kind of act like high schoolers, or they still have, like, that mindset or whatever. And at the end of the day, it's like it really just is football. So, like, what you do outside of that matters, especially after, like, what we've seen of how long the careers last there. So, yeah, I think that's where we're going to come in for sure. And
no, 100%, because these guys – their careers aren't guaranteed. Their money's not. And that's why they try to fight for the guaranteed money. And I know people get upset. Oh, they're millionaires. Like let's take Deebo's tweet yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw this pretty viral tweet. Jason Verrett got injured. Some fans they feel a certain way when players get hurt. They say what they got to say. There's some people that get upset and they take it out negatively. For the most part, I think most people were pretty positive and saying, hey, prayers up. But Deebo's been injured himself. Other players on the team have been injured. And he said, this is what he said. He goes, let me pull up the quote. This is exact word for word, bar for bar quote. He says, I swear some of y'all have zero respect when people get hurt. Ridiculous, big cap letters. So, he thinks that players need more respect in terms of being injuries because they go out there, they put their bodies through hell, man. They go through a lot. I know they get paid a lot, but it's a physical sport. And, if they don't get big guaranteed money, they're going to be working in rehab and they're going to be dealing with these injuries through the years. And this is their career. This is their job. They put in their whole life of training to go into this job. And, yeah, if they get paid big, that's because all the years of training that people don't see behind the scenes. How many times did he stay after, and ran a couple miles? How many times did he go and catch 100 catches, with his boys and stuff or 200 catches, whatever. Or in basketball, how many times did this guy, Steph Curry, sit there and shoot free throws for 2 hours? We don't see all that stuff. We see them on the court. We see the razzle-dazzle. We see, they're a big-time player. They're getting paid a lot of money. They got endorsements. But it took a lot of work to get to that point. So, yeah, these athletes are going to feel a certain type of way when people are bashing them. Like, if you get hated on, you're going to feel a certain type of way. Like, nobody wants to get hated on. Like, yeah, you get...
Especially in those tough moments.
Yeah, man. Like, if you get divorced and you got someone from your other family, from the other person's side trashing you, you're going to feel like crap, man. So, at the end of the day, man, people got emotions, and these players got emotions. So I feel what Deebo's saying, and I think he had every right to say that. But I think the whole point is, these players, their careers aren't guaranteed, and if they lose their career and their career ends because of some injury or whatever the case is, what are they going to do after their career? Like, yeah, they might have had a lot of money yet through their contracts or stuff, but some of them aren't lucky enough to make those big time contracts. So
right.
What happens to them? Are they going to go into commentating? Are they going to be able to coach? Some of them just have a regular 9-to-5 job like me and you afterwards, because they didn't have anything to parlay. They can't really parlay their fame because they didn't break out like they wanted to. So.
Yeah, facts.
Tough.
And, man, it really is. And just to kind of end it off a tough note, I just seen a really cool documentary on Deebo. And I really believe, man, because when you look at Deebo, his physicality is crazy. And, he is, you know how much he weighs? Like 210?
Yeah, he's
213 maybe, something around that.
Pretty thick.
Yeah, he's pretty thick, especially for a receiver. But I think his mindset separates him a lot. Like, a lot of people may not know this, but Deebo wasn't, like, just tracking back down to, like, day one. He wasn't even raised by his biological mother. And just that, when I found that out, I was like, man, this guy has had to, like, really been on his 10 his entire life.
Yeah.
And obviously the woman who raised him was really, it seemed like it was a really good mother figure to him. But it's just like the adversity, where he grew up and his brother and all that stuff, and it's like, man, like you can see like Debo, he plays with his fucking heart on his shoulder, on his sleeve, like he really does. So much respect to Debo for sure. Like on a human level, you know what I'm saying? That's what you're saying. It's like, man, you got to realize these players are way more on the field. They're human beings. So at the end of the day, like I salute to these guys. Like they're putting their fucking body in line every single week,
every day, man. That's why I get frustrated when. I get it. I hate when players get hurt, and there are some injury-prone players and stuff. But like when people go out of their way to trash them, it's like I'm sure they already know. They're going through injuries. It's tough, man. Like I try to stay positive and try to, try not to hate on too many players. I mean, I've had my critiques. Like I've sat there and been critical on players when they play bad. But I guess there's a way to do it. But yeah, man, these guys are human, like me and you, man, and they got emotions. It's tough. But yeah, shout out to Debo, man. He's as real as they come.
Facts. No, that's as real. Yeah, it's as real as you get, and you can see why he's just one of the best receivers in the league. Like, I don't think there's anyone like Debo, so that's why I don't even like to say he's the number one like receiver. It's just Debo's Debo.
He's 101, man. He's
Facts.
One of a kind.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So shout out Debo. Shout out the Niners. I'm gonna say it right now. 2023 champions. NFC champions and Super Bowl champions. We're not gonna get left behind again. And I'm excited for the future, bro. I really am. Like I have high expectations because if something don't happen, I'm gonna go to that front office myself and knock on the door and say, Shanahan, what's going on? I have so much believe in you, bro. My whole life I've been preaching about how he's gonna be the best coach of all time, but you got to get some Super Bowls first.
Got to win the ring, baby. If we don't get a Super Bowl, Kyle, you hear that? We coming at your door.
No, it ain't even one, bro. That's what I'm saying. It ain't even that conversation's over.
Oh.
Like it's 2-3 at this point.
Oh,
like
man.
I swear to God.
Let's just get one first. I'll be content with one, man. But yeah, if you can let's start with one this year. Let's hope they get that.
Let's start the dynasty for sure.
For sure.
Hell yeah, man. But let's end it off on a good note, man. Shout out the Niners. Shout out Shanahan, shout out Debo, shout out all the guys, man.
Yeah. Shout out to the squad. Let's get the second half rolling on a good note. Starting Sunday Night Football, let's crush the Chargers and go on a big run. Niners Super Bowl champs. Let's go.
All right, predictions. Tell me if you get it right, I'll sleep in here for a week.
You don't want to do that, bro. This place is dangerous. Yo, this place is. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
If only they knew. But yeah what's the prediction?
Prediction. Niners are going to win 30-23.
30 okay. So it's going to be a close game. But, yeah, Jay Herbo, Justin Herbert, he's a monster.
I think the good news is they got a lot of injuries, unfortunate for them, but fortunate for us. They got Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, they're both out. Joey Bosa's out, J.C. Jackson's out, Rashawn Slater's out. So it stacks up well for us. But, Justin Herbert's still a dog, and you got to still be able to take him out. Yeah. No,
facts. I'm calling 32-14. I think we're going to whip him.
Woo! We're going to dog walk him, huh? Let's go.
Yes. What you think, Alex? You're not a Niners fan. What you think the score is going to be, bro? I'm telling you, I'll sleep in here for a week. Yeah. 12-7, all right.
12-7 Chargers, did you say? Oh, this guy, he's sleeping. We need to make him sleep.
Jersey I see under that.
Do we need to make him sleep in here if he's wrong? So. Oh, my God.
Yeah, come on.
Damn. This is a massive hater. Why are you hanging out with this guy so much? He must be having all the camera equipment.
Yeah, that's what it is. This is a real deal, man.
All right.
For sure, Rod. So I appreciate you, bro. Like I said, we're gonna talk some big moves. This is not gonna be the last time they're gonna see your face. And,
no doubt.
And I know we got big moves on the way. So I appreciate your presence, brother.
Hey, no doubt, man. Appreciate you.
Let's do it.